The wind howled through the gaps in the wooden walls. Lady Imogen Hartley pressed her shawl tighter around her thin shoulders. Her fingers had turned blue from the cold. She sat in the smallest room of Hartley Manor, the one farthest from any fireplace. Her stepmother had given her this room 3 years ago, right after father died. "You'll take what you're given," Beatrice had said that day. "A girl with your face should be grateful for anything." Imogen touched her cheek without thinking. The scar ran from her left eye to her jaw. The carriage accident that killed her mother had left its mark. She was 5 years old then. Now she was 23. The scar had faded to silver, but it still made people look away. Her stomach growled. She hadn't eaten since yesterday morning. Beatrice said food was expensive. Imogen's portions had grown smaller each month. Her gowns hung loose on her frame. She looked in the mirror and saw a ghost. A knock rattled her door. She jumped. "Get up," her stepsister Philippa called. "Mother wants you downstairs." Imogen rose slowly. Her legs felt weak. She smoothed her grey dress and followed Philippa down the cold hallway. The main house was warm. Fires burned in every room. But Imogen wasn't allowed to linger near them. Beatrice sat in father's old chair. She was a large woman with hard eyes. Philippa stood beside her, beautiful and cruel like her mother. They both watched Imogen enter. "We have news," Beatrice said. Her voice dripped with false sweetness. "The Duke of Greystone needs a wife." Imogen's heart sank. She knew what came next. "His Grace is offering £5,000 to any family who provides him a bride before winter ends," Beatrice continued. "We've decided to send you." Philippa laughed. "Can you imagine? A scarred old maid marrying a duke?" "He won't want to look at her," Beatrice agreed. "But his letter says he needs an heir. Any wife will do, even an ugly one." The words hit like stones. Imogen kept her face blank. She'd learned not to show pain. It only made them crueler. "You leave tomorrow," Beatrice said. "The Duke's castle is 3 days north. Pack your things. Not that you have much." Imogen curtsied. She left the room with her head high. Only when she reached her cold chamber did she let herself cry. Hot tears fell on her frozen hands. She was being sold like cattle, traded for gold, sent to a stranger who needed any body that could bear children. She looked out her window at the grey sky. Snow was falling again. Tomorrow she would travel into winter. Tomorrow she would meet the man who thought any wife would do, even an ugly one. That night, Imogen barely slept. She owned 3 dresses. All were old and patched. She folded them carefully. Her mother's locket was her only treasure. She held it tight and whispered a prayer. Morning came too soon. A carriage arrived before dawn. It was plain and cold inside. No warm bricks for her feet, no blankets. Beatrice handed her a small bag of food, probably stale bread. "Try not to embarrass us," Beatrice said. "Do what the Duke says. Give him sons. Stay out of sight otherwise." The carriage rolled away from Hartley Manor. Imogen didn't look back. That house had never been home. Not after father died. Not after Beatrice took over. Not after years of cold rooms and cruel words. The journey was brutal. 3 days of icy roads and freezing nights. The bread was indeed stale. Imogen made it last. She arrived at Greystone Castle on an evening dark with storm clouds. The castle rose from the snow like a mountain. It was huge and grey and forbidding. Towers reached toward angry skies, windows glowed with firelight. It should have looked welcoming. Instead, it looked like a prison. A butler met her at the door. He was old with kind eyes. "Lady Imogen?" he asked gently. She nodded. Her teeth chattered from cold. "I'm Mr. Wickham. Welcome to Greystone. Come inside quickly, you're frozen through." The warmth of the entrance hall made her dizzy. She swayed on her feet. Mr. Wickham caught her elbow. "When did you last eat, my lady?" "Yesterday morning." His expression darkened. "Come, I'll have food sent to your room." His Grace will meet you tomorrow. Tonight you rest. He led her up wide staircases. The castle was beautiful inside. Rich carpets, fine paintings. Everything spoke of wealth. Her room was larger than the entire attic at Hartley Manor. A fire blazed in the hearth. A bed piled with blankets waited. "A maid will bring supper," Mr. Wickham said. "Hot water for washing, too. Sleep well, my lady." He left her alone. Imogen stood in the middle of the room and cried. Not from sadness now, from relief, from warmth, from the simple kindness of a stranger who saw she was cold and hungry. A young maid arrived with food. Soup, bread, cheese, apples. More food than Imogen had seen in months. She ate slowly. Her stomach had shrunk, but the warmth spread through her body like sunshine. She washed in hot water, a luxury she'd forgotten. She put on her cleanest nightgown and climbed into the soft bed. The mattress held her like a cloud. The blankets weighed heavy and warm. She fell asleep feeling almost human again. Morning light woke her. Imogen dressed in her best gown. It was grey and old but clean. She brushed her hair carefully. The maid knocked and entered. "His Grace will see you in the library," the girl said softly. "I'll show you the way." Imogen's hands trembled. This was the moment. The Duke would look at her and see what everyone saw. A scarred, plain woman, useful only for bearing children. She would see his disgust. Then her life would begin as his unloved wife. The library was enormous. Books lined every wall. A fire crackled. A man stood at the window with his back to her. He was tall, broad-shouldered. His dark hair touched his collar. "Leave us," he said to the maid. The door closed softly. Imogen stood frozen. The Duke turned around. Imogen's breath caught. He was the most handsome man she'd ever seen. Strong features, sharp jaw, grey eyes like storm clouds. But those eyes held such emptiness, such deep, aching loneliness. He looked at her face. His gaze passed over her scar. He didn't flinch, didn't look away. He simply looked at her the way one looks at a painting or a landscape. "You are Lady Imogen Hartley," he said. His voice was deep and tired. "Yes, Your Grace." "I am Rhys Thornwell, Duke of Greystone. You know why you're here?" It wasn't a question. Imogen nodded anyway. "I need an heir," he continued flatly. "My uncle circles like a vulture. If I die without sons, he inherits everything. I won't let that happen. You'll be my Duchess. You'll have every comfort. In return, you'll give me children and manage the household. We need not pretend affection. This is a practical arrangement." Each word landed like ice water. Imogen had expected this, but hearing it still hurt. She was a womb with a woman attached, nothing more. "Do you agree?" he asked. What choice did she have? Return to Beatrice? Freeze and starve in that attic? At least here she'd be warm and fed. "I agree, Your Grace." Something flickered in his eyes. Surprise? Relief? It vanished too quickly to tell. "The wedding is tomorrow. Mr. Wickham will help you prepare. You may go." Dismissed, like a servant. Imogen curtsied and turned to leave. "Wait," he said suddenly. She froze. He crossed the room to her. Up close, she could see lines of grief on his face, shadows under his eyes. This was a man who didn't sleep well. "Are you here by choice?" he asked quietly. The question surprised her. She considered lying, but something in his eyes made her tell the truth. "My stepmother sent me for the bride price. I had nowhere else to go." He nodded slowly. "Then we're both trapped by circumstance. Perhaps that makes us equal." He walked away without another word, but Imogen stood very still. He hadn't called her ugly, hadn't mentioned her scar, hadn't treated her like something shameful. He'd simply stated facts and asked one kind question. Maybe, she thought, this wouldn't be quite as terrible as she'd feared. The wedding was small and cold. A priest spoke words Imogen barely heard. Rhys slid a heavy ring onto her finger. She was now the Duchess of Greystone. It felt unreal. That night, a maid led her to the Duchess's chambers. They connected to the Duke's rooms through a shared sitting area. Imogen put on her nightgown and waited. Her heart pounded. She knew what came next. The duty of a wife. She'd been told it would hurt the first time. She braced herself. A knock came at the connecting door. Rhys entered. He wore a dark robe. His expression was unreadable. "You're frightened," he observed. Imogen couldn't deny it. She nodded. He sighed and sat in a chair far from her bed. "I won't touch you tonight. You've traveled far. You're exhausted. Sleep." She stared at him. "But don't you need—" "An heir? Yes, but I'm not a monster. We have time." He stood to leave, then paused. "This is your room, your private space. I'll never enter without permission. Remember that." He left. Imogen sat on the bed in shock. She'd expected force or cold duty. Instead, he'd given her kindness, space, respect. She didn't know what to do with that. Days passed. Imogen explored her new home. The castle was vast. She met the staff. The housekeeper, Mrs. Davies, was strict but fair. The cook made wonderful meals. Everyone treated her with courtesy due a duchess. It was strange after years of contempt. Rhys kept his distance. They took breakfast together, dinner too. He was polite, asked about her day, listened to her answers, but he never smiled, never showed warmth. He was like a clockwork man going through motions. At night, he knocked on her door. She let him in. They sat in her room and talked quietly, about books, about the estate, about nothing important. Then he left. Always left, never demanding his rights as husband. Imogen grew confused. Was he disgusted by her? Was he being kind, or simply avoiding an unpleasant duty? She couldn't tell. 2 weeks after the wedding, snow fell heavily. Imogen stood at her window watching. A knock came at her sitting room door. "Come in," she called. Rhys entered. He held a large box. "I've brought you something." He set the box on the table. Imogen approached carefully. Inside were gowns, beautiful gowns in rich fabrics, greens and blues and deep reds. Nothing grey or black, nothing plain. "You're a duchess now," he said. "You should dress like one." "These are too fine," Imogen whispered. Her hands shook as she touched the silk. "They're appropriate." He paused. "Your old dresses were rags. I won't have my wife looking like a servant." His tone was sharp, but Imogen heard something else beneath it. Anger. Not at her, at whoever had given her rags to wear. "Thank you, Your Grace," she said softly. "Rhys," he corrected. "We're married. Use my name." "Thank you, Rhys." He nodded, started to leave, then stopped. "Why do you never eat dessert at dinner?" he asked. The question startled her. I'm not used to sweet things." "Were you not allowed them?" She looked down. "Food was limited before." His jaw tightened. "You're safe here. Eat whatever you want, as much as you want. That's an order." He left quickly, but Imogen saw his hands clenched into fists. Something about her careful eating had angered him. She realized with shock that he was angry for her, not at her, for her. That night, dessert appeared at dinner. Apple tart with cream. Rhys watched her from across the table. "Eat it," he said. Imogen took a small bite. Sweetness burst on her tongue. She couldn't help her expression of delight. Rhys's mouth twitched. Almost a smile. Not quite, but almost. "Good," was all he said. Days turned to weeks. Imogen wore her new gowns. She ate full meals and desserts. She gained weight. Her face filled out. Her body grew strong. The castle staff noticed. Mr. Wickham smiled at her more. Mrs. Davies commented that the Duchess looked well. Rhys noticed too. His grey eyes followed her movements. He watched her eat, watched her laugh at something a maid said, watched her read by the fire. His expression remained distant, but his attention felt like weight, like something warm and heavy settling over her. One evening, Imogen sat in the main hall mending a tapestry. The housekeeper had mentioned it needed work. Imogen was skilled with a needle. Years of mending her own rags had taught her. Rhys found her there. He stood in the doorway, watching. She didn't notice him at first. She was focused on her work, humming softly. "You have a pretty voice," he said. Imogen jumped. Her needle pricked her finger. Blood welled up. She gasped. Rhys crossed the room in 3 strides. He took her hand and examined the finger. A single drop of blood bloomed. Without thinking, he pulled out his handkerchief and wrapped it gently. "I didn't mean to startle you," he said quietly. His hands were warm, large and strong, but surprisingly gentle. Imogen's heart hammered. He was so close. She could smell sandalwood and winter air. "It's nothing," she managed to say. He didn't release her hand. He looked at it wrapped in his handkerchief, then at her face. His eyes met hers. For a moment, something passed between them. A current, a spark. Imogen felt it down to her bones. Rhys dropped her hand like it burned him. He stepped back. "Be more careful," he said roughly. Then he left. Imogen sat very still. Her hand tingled where he'd touched her. Her heart wouldn't slow. What was this feeling? This warmth? This wanting? She'd never felt attraction before. No man had ever looked at her kindly. But Rhys did. He didn't see her scar. He saw her. And when he touched her, even by accident, her whole body came alive. This was dangerous. He'd said their marriage was practical. He wanted heirs, not affection. She couldn't let herself feel. It would only lead to heartbreak. But her heart didn't listen. It beat faster every time he entered a room. It ached when he left. She was falling, helplessly, hopelessly falling for a man who saw her as a duty. Winter deepened. Snow buried the world. Imogen spent evenings in the library reading. Rhys worked at his desk. They shared the space in silence, but it was comfortable silence, peaceful. One night, she looked up from her book. Rhys sat slumped in his chair. His eyes were closed. His face looked younger in sleep, less haunted. She rose quietly and found a blanket. She draped it over him gently. He didn't wake. Imogen stood there looking at him. Her husband. This sad, lonely man who'd given her warmth and food and safety, who asked nothing in return, who kept himself locked away like a prisoner. "Who hurt you?" she whispered. "What made you so afraid to feel?" He stirred but didn't wake. Imogen returned to her chair. She watched him sleep until the fire burned low. Days later, Mrs. Davies asked Imogen to approve menus. Imogen discovered she enjoyed managing the household. She had ideas for improvements. The staff listened respectfully. Changes were made. The castle ran more smoothly. Rhys noticed. At dinner, he said, "The staff speak highly of you. Mrs. Davies says you're a natural duchess." Imogen blushed. "I just try to help." "You do more than help. You've brought warmth to this place. It's been cold a long time." His voice held something new, something soft. Imogen looked up. He was watching her with an expression she couldn't name. "You've been kind to me," she said quietly. "I wanted to give something back." "Kind?" He laughed bitterly. "I bought you like property, married you for breeding. There's no kindness in that. You gave me a warm room, good food, respect. Do you know what I had before?" Her voice shook. "A freezing attic, stale bread, cruelty every day. You saved me from that, whether you meant to or not." Rhys stared at her. Something broke in his expression. The walls cracked. They starved you, he said flatly. Your own family. My step-family. After father died, I was just a burden, an ugly burden they couldn't marry off. Stop. His voice cut like a blade. Don't call yourself that. It's what I am. It's what they told you. He stood abruptly. You're beautiful, Imogen. Can't you see that? She gaped at him. Beautiful. Her, with her scar and plain features. You don't have to lie to spare my feelings, she said. He crossed to her, knelt beside her chair, took her face in his hands. His touch was gentle but firm. I never lie. Look at me. She met his eyes. They burned with intensity. You have the kindest eyes I've ever seen, he said. Your smile lights up rooms. Your voice soothes. You move with grace. You're intelligent and capable and warm. Every day you grow more radiant. Can't you see what I see? Tears spilled down her cheeks. You really think that? I know it. You're beautiful, Imogen. The scar doesn't change that. It's just a mark. It doesn't define you. He wiped her tears with his thumbs. His touch was reverent, like she was something precious. Imogen's breath caught. Why are you telling me this? She whispered. His expression shuttered. He dropped his hands and stood. Because someone should have told you long ago. Excuse me. He left quickly. Imogen sat trembling. Her face tingled where he'd touched her. Her heart sang and ached at once. He thought she was beautiful. He saw worth in her. But then he'd fled like she was dangerous. What was he afraid of? That night, he knocked on her door as usual. She let him in. They sat in their customary chairs, but something had changed. The air felt charged. I apologize for earlier, Rhys said stiffly. I overstepped. You were kind. There's nothing to apologize for. I made you uncomfortable. No, you made me feel valued, for the first time in years. He looked at her, really looked. Your family should hang for how they treated you. They weren't all family, just people I lived with. Still, his hands clenched. You deserved better. I have better now, thanks to you. This is hardly better. A cold marriage to a broken man. The words hung in the air. Broken. So he knew what he was. Imogen's heart ached for him. What broke you? She asked gently. He was quiet for so long she thought he wouldn't answer. Then he spoke. My wife. My first wife. Lisette. Imogen hadn't known he was married before. Shock must have shown on her face. She died 3 years ago, along with our unborn child. His voice was empty, hollow. She was 6 months with child. She fell down the stairs, both gone in a moment. Oh, Rhys. Imogen's eyes filled with tears. I'm so sorry. I loved her, deeply. When she died, I buried my heart with her. I swore I'd never feel that pain again, never love again, never risk it. Understanding crashed over Imogen. That's why he kept distant, why he called their marriage practical. He was protecting himself from more loss, more pain. He'd locked his heart away. That's why you don't want affection between us, she said softly. Yes, I can't lose someone again. I can't survive it. So it's better not to feel. But you're not living. You're just existing. He looked at her sharply. It's safer. It's lonely. Loneliness doesn't kill you. Love does. Imogen's heart broke for him, for the man so wounded he was afraid to heal. She wanted to hold him, to promise she wouldn't hurt him. But how could she promise that? Life offered no guarantees. For what it's worth, she said quietly, I think Lisette would be sad to see you like this, buried with her. She'd want you to live, to be happy again. His jaw worked. Don't speak of what she'd want. You didn't know her. You're right. I'm sorry. He stood. I should go. Rhys, wait. She rose too. Thank you for telling me. I understand better now. He nodded once and left. Imogen sank back into her chair. Poor, broken man, trapped by grief and fear. She wanted to help him, to show him life could still be good. But how did you teach someone to feel again when they'd built walls so high? The next day, Imogen walked in the snow-covered garden. The cold air cleared her head. She thought about Rhys, about his pain, about the careful distance he maintained. She thought about herself too. She was falling in love with him. She knew that now. His kindness had seeded affection, his gentleness had nurtured it, his pain had made her care deeply. She loved him, and it was hopeless. He'd said plainly he wouldn't love again. She was just a means to an heir, a practical arrangement. Letting herself love him would only bring heartbreak. But she couldn't help it. The heart wanted what it wanted. She returned inside, cold and sad. Mr. Wickham met her in the hall. His Grace asked for you, Your Grace. He's in the North Tower. Curious, Imogen climbed the tower stairs. She found Rhys in a large room filled with paintings. Some were covered with cloths, others leaned against walls. You wanted to see me? She asked. He turned. I thought you might like to paint. Mrs. Davies mentioned you sketched. Imogen had sketched years ago, before Beatrice took away her paper and pencils. She'd almost forgotten. I haven't drawn in years, she said. Would you like to start again? This was Lizette's studio. She loved to paint. It's been locked since she died. But maybe... He trailed off. Maybe it should be used again, Imogen finished gently. He nodded. She would have wanted that, I think. It was a gift, a precious gift. He was sharing his late wife's space with Imogen, trusting her with it. Thank you, Imogen said. I'd love to paint here. A small smile touched his lips, barely there, but real. Good. He left her to explore. Imogen walked around the studio with wonder. Canvases, paints, brushes, easels, everything an artist needed. She uncovered one painting. It showed a beautiful blonde woman laughing. Lisette. She looked full of life and joy. Imogen understood why Rhys had loved her. She was radiant. Imogen felt a pang of jealousy, then pushed it away. The poor woman was dead. There was no competition with a ghost. But part of her wondered, could Rhys ever care for her the way he'd cared for Lisette? Or was she destined to live in that shadow forever? Days passed. Imogen painted in the tower. She started with simple things, flowers, birds, snow falling. But her skill returned quickly. She found peace in the work, joy in creating. Rhys came to check on her progress. He looked at her paintings with genuine interest. You're talented, he said. I'm adequate. Don't diminish yourself. These are lovely. She glowed under his praise. His approval meant everything. Too much. She was in deep trouble. One evening, a storm raged outside. Wind howled. Snow flew. The castle was warm, but the storm was frightening. Imogen tried to sleep, but couldn't. Around midnight, she heard footsteps in the sitting room. Then a cry. She rushed to the connecting door. Rhys sat on the floor in his nightshirt. He was shaking. His face was pale and covered in sweat. Rhys? She knelt beside him. What's wrong? Nightmare, he gasped. Just a nightmare. But he looked shattered, haunted. Without thinking, Imogen put her arms around him. He stiffened. Then, slowly, he relaxed into her embrace. His head dropped to her shoulder. His arms came around her waist. They knelt there on the floor, holding each other. The storm raged. Rhys shook. Imogen held him and stroked his hair. She murmured soft, soothing sounds. Slowly, his breathing steadied. I dreamed she was falling, he whispered. Over and over. I couldn't catch her. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Every night I see it. Every night. Imogen's heart broke. He lived with this constant torment. No wonder he looked so tired, so empty. "Come," she said gently. "Sit with me." She led him to the sofa. They sat close together. She kept her arm around him. He didn't pull away. "Tell me about her," Imogen said. "About Lisette." He was quiet. Then he began to speak. He told stories of meeting Lisette at a ball, of their courtship, of her laughter and light, of their wedding day, of learning she was with child, of his joy, of that terrible day on the stairs. Imogen listened to it all. She cried with him, for the love he'd lost, for the child who never drew breath, for the man left behind, broken. When he finished, dawn was breaking. Grey light filled the room. Rhys looked at her with red eyes. "Thank you," he said hoarsely, "for listening. I've never spoken of it. Not like that. You needed to. Perhaps." He touched her face lightly. "You're a good woman, Imogen. I care about you, Rhys." The words slipped out before she could stop them. His hand stilled on her cheek. His eyes widened. "Don't," he said roughly. "Don't care. I'll only disappoint you." Too late. He pulled away, stood. "This was a mistake. I shouldn't have burdened you." "It wasn't a burden. I wanted to help." "Well, don't. I don't need help. I don't need caring. I need—" He stopped, couldn't finish. "What? What do you need?" "Nothing. I need nothing." He left. Imogen sat alone as sun rose. She knew she'd crossed a line, admitted too much. But she didn't regret it. He needed to know someone cared, even if he didn't want it. After that night, Rhys avoided her. They stopped taking breakfast together. Dinner was awkward and silent. He didn't come to her room at night. The careful friendship they'd built crumbled. Imogen ached. She'd pushed too hard, scared him away. Now she had nothing, not even his distant companionship. A week passed in cold silence. Then Mr. Wickham brought news. A letter had arrived. Rhys's uncle was coming to visit, Lord Edmund Thornwell. He wanted to see his nephew and meet the new Duchess. Rhys's expression when he heard was like stone. "When?" "3 days, Your Grace." "Wonderful," Rhys said flatly. "Just wonderful." That night, he finally knocked on Imogen's door. She opened it. They stood looking at each other. "My uncle is trouble," Rhys said without preamble. "He's been circling for years, waiting for me to die without heirs. He'll be cruel to you. I wanted you to be prepared." "I've handled cruelty before." "Not like Edmund. He's vicious." "I'll be fine." He searched her face. "Why aren't you angry with me? For avoiding you?" "Because I understand. I pushed too hard. I scared you." "You didn't scare me." "Then what?" He was silent. Then, "You made me feel. I didn't want to feel." Her heart stuttered. "And now?" "I still don't want to, but I can't seem to stop." The confession hung between them. Imogen stepped closer. "Would it be so terrible?" "To feel again." "Yes, because feeling leads to loss, and I can't lose anyone else." "So you'd rather feel nothing? Live half alive?" "If it keeps me safe, yes." Imogen wanted to shake him, to kiss him, to show him that safety wasn't living. But she couldn't force him to heal. He had to choose it. "I'll stand beside you when your uncle comes," she said instead. "I'll be the Duchess you need. I won't let you face him alone." Something softened in his face. "Thank you. That's what wives do, even practical ones." He almost smiled. Almost. Then he left. But the wall between them had cracked. Just a little. Lord Edmund Thornwell arrived like a cold wind. He was tall and thin with sharp features. His eyes missed nothing. He looked at Greystone Castle like he already owned it. He looked at Imogen like she was an insect. "So this is the Duchess," he said at dinner. His tone dripped disdain. "How interesting." "Mind your tongue, Edmund," Rhys warned. "Oh, come now. I'm just making observations. Your first wife was a beauty. This one is less so." Imogen kept her face calm. She'd heard worse, but Rhys's knuckles went white on his fork. "Imogen is beautiful. You're blind if you can't see it." Edmund laughed. "Loyal, how sweet. Tell me, nephew, has she quickened yet? Any hope of an heir?" "That's none of your concern." "Oh, but it is. If you die without sons, I inherit. I have a vested interest in your breeding success." Rhys stood abruptly. "Get out." "What?" "Get out of my house. Now. Tonight." Edmund rose slowly. His smile was cruel. "Touchy, are we? Hit a nerve?" "Don't worry, nephew. I'll leave. But we both know the truth. If she doesn't give you an heir soon, I'll be master here. Sleep well." He swept from the room. Rhys stood breathing hard. Imogen touched his arm. "He's just trying to upset you." He succeeded. "Don't let him win." He looked at her. His eyes were blazing. "He's right about one thing. We need an heir. I've been remiss in my duties as husband." Imogen's stomach fluttered. "Rhys." "Not tonight, but soon. We can't put it off forever." He left her. Imogen sat at the table alone. Her heart pounded. Soon, he'd said. Soon he'd come to her bed. Not because he wanted her, because he needed an heir. Because his uncle was circling. It shouldn't hurt. This was always the arrangement. But it did hurt. Because she'd hoped. Foolishly, desperately hoped that maybe he was coming to care for her too. That night, Imogen couldn't sleep. She paced her room. Around midnight, she heard shouting. She rushed to the sitting room. Rhys was there, pacing like a caged animal. "You should be asleep," he said when he saw her. "So should you. What's wrong?" "Everything. Edmund. My duty. This whole situation. Talk to me." He laughed harshly. "Why? So you can listen and care and make me feel even more than I already do? Is that so terrible?" "Yes." He turned to her. His face was anguished. "Because I'm starting to care for you, Imogen. Against my will, against my better judgment. I'm starting to care, and it terrifies me." Her breath caught. "Rhys, I watch you, all the time. I notice everything. The way you hum when you paint. How you're kind to the servants. Your laugh, your smile. I want to be near you. I want to touch you. I want—" He stopped. "I want things I swore I'd never want again." Imogen crossed to him, took his hands. "Then want them. Let yourself want. If I do, I'll fall. I'll fall and it will break me when I lose you. You won't lose me. Everyone dies, Imogen. Everyone leaves. Not yet. Not today. We have now. Isn't that enough?" He pulled her close. His forehead touched hers. "I don't know. Is it? It has to be, because now is all anyone ever has." He kissed her then, soft and desperate. His lips trembled against hers. Imogen kissed him back with all the love in her heart, all the caring he didn't want but needed. He pulled her tighter. The kiss deepened. Years of loneliness poured out, years of pain, but also hope. Tentative, fragile hope. When they broke apart, both were breathing hard. Rhys cupped her face. "I'm falling," he whispered. "Heaven help me, I'm falling." "Then fall. I'll catch you." He kissed her again, longer this time, sweeter. When he lifted her and carried her to her bed, it wasn't duty. It was want. It was need. It was the beginning of love. That night changed everything. Rhys stopped hiding. He sought Imogen out. They took meals together, walked in the garden, sat by the fire holding hands. He came to her bed not for airs but for comfort, for connection, for her. He started to smile more, to laugh even. The staff noticed. Mr. Wickham told Imogen that his Grace seemed like a new man. Mrs. Davies said love had done him good. Love. The word hung in the air, unspoken between them but present, growing, deepening. One snowy afternoon they sat in the library. Imogen painted while Rhys read. Perfect contentment. He looked up from his book. "Marry me," he said. She laughed. "We're already married." "No, I mean truly marry me. Not for duty, not for airs. Because I love you." Her brush clattered to the floor. "What?" He crossed to her, knelt, took her paint-stained hands. "I love you, Imogen. Somewhere between arguments and midnight talks and watching you eat apple tart, I fell in love. I fought it. I tried to stop, but I can't. I love you." Tears streamed down her face. "You love me?" "Desperately. Completely. I know I'm broken. I know I'm difficult. But I love you with everything I have left. Will you have me? Not as a duke, but as a man." "Yes," she sobbed. "Yes, yes, yes. I love you too. I've loved you for weeks." He pulled her into his arms. They knelt there on the floor, holding each other and crying. Happy tears. Healing tears. The tears of two broken people made whole by love. "I never thought I'd feel this again," he whispered. "I never thought I'd want to. I never thought anyone would love me, ever." "Then we're both fools, because you're worthy of all the love in the world." He kissed her deeply, thoroughly, a kiss that promised forever, promised everything. When they broke apart, both were smiling. "I want to marry you properly," he said, "in the chapel, with everyone watching. I want the world to know you're mine because I'm yours." "We can do that." "I want to court you, bring you flowers, write you poetry, do all the things I should have done from the start." She laughed through tears. "You don't have to." "I want to. You deserve to be courted, cherished, adored. Just love me. That's enough." "I'll do that too, every day for the rest of my life." They held each other as snow fell outside. Two souls who'd found each other in darkness, two hearts learning to beat as one. Life became beautiful. Rhys courted Imogen like they were young lovers. He brought her flowers from the hothouse. He wrote her terrible poetry that made her laugh. He held her hand on walks. He kissed her in hallways. He told her he loved her a dozen times a day. Imogen bloomed under his love. She glowed. Her paintings grew vibrant with colour and joy. She sang while she worked. The castle filled with warmth and laughter. The staff said the Duchess had brought spring to Greystone. But really, love had brought spring. Love had thawed the frozen hearts. Then, one morning, Imogen woke feeling ill. She made it to the basin before she was sick. The nausea passed quickly, but it returned the next morning, and the next. Mrs. Davies noticed. She smiled knowingly. "Shall I send for the physician, Your Grace?" The physician confirmed what they suspected. Imogen was with child. The heir Rhys needed was coming. But more than that, their love had created life. A child born from genuine affection, not duty, not arrangement. Love. Imogen told Rhys that evening. He was at his desk working. She entered quietly. "I have news," she said. He looked up, smiled, that smile that was only for her. "Good news, I hope." "I'm with child." He went very still, his face paled. Then he was moving, crossing the room, gathering her into his arms. "A baby," he whispered. "Our baby." "Are you happy?" She was suddenly uncertain. His first child had ended in tragedy. Happy? Imogen. I'm terrified and thrilled and grateful. I'm all of it at once. He pulled back to look at her. Are you well? Do you need anything? Should you be resting? She laughed. I'm fine. Just mornings are difficult. Then I'll hold your hair every morning. I'll bring you tea, whatever you need. I need you, just you. He kissed her softly. You have me, always. But beneath his joy, Imogen saw fear. Fear of losing her like he'd lost Lisette. She held his face in her hands. I'm strong. I'll be careful. And I'll be fine. Promise me. Promise you'll tell me if anything feels wrong. I promise. He held her close. She felt him trembling. This was hard for him, opening himself to the possibility of loss again. But he was doing it. For her. For their child. For love. The pregnancy progressed smoothly. Imogen grew round. Rhys became impossibly protective. He barely let her walk stairs alone. He worried constantly. But he was also tender. He talked to her belly. He felt the baby kick. He was present in every moment. Then, 3 weeks before the baby was due, a letter arrived. From Beatrice. Imogen recognized the handwriting. Her hand shook as she opened it. The letter was venomous. Beatrice had heard of the pregnancy. She demanded money. After all, she'd provided the bride who'd caught a duke. Didn't she deserve compensation? If Imogen didn't send £5,000, Beatrice would spread rumours. Tell society that Imogen had trapped Rhys with lies. Ruin her reputation. Imogen felt sick. Not from pregnancy, from fear and fury. Would this woman never leave her alone? Rhys found her crying in their sitting room. She gave him the letter. He read it. His face went cold. She dares threaten you? His voice was ice. She dares? What do I do? Nothing. I'll handle this. He left immediately. Took a horse despite the winter weather. He rode to Hartley Manor. Imogen learned later what happened from Mr. Wickham, who insisted on going along. Rhys arrived like a storm. He strode into the manor and confronted Beatrice in her own drawing room. She started to speak. He cut her off. You will never contact my wife again, he said flatly. You will not write. You will not visit. You will not spread rumors. If you do any of these things, I will destroy you. Beatrice laughed. You can't threaten me. I'm her family. You're nothing. You're a cruel woman who starved and abused a girl under your care. I know everything. Every cold night in that attic. Every missed meal. Every vicious word. If you had done that to a servant, you'd be arrested. The fact that Imogen was family makes it worse. What will you do? Tell people? Who'll believe you? Everyone. Because I'm a duke. Because I have power and money and influence. I will stand before all of society and detail your cruelty. I'll make sure no one receives you. No one speaks to you. You'll be shunned. Ruined. Beatrice paled. You wouldn't. Test me. Send one more letter. Spread one rumor. See what happens. He dropped a purse on the table. There's £500. Use it to leave England. Go abroad. Disappear. If you stay, I'll make your life a living hell. Choose wisely. He left. Rode home through snow to Imogen. She was waiting anxiously. He swept her into his arms. It's done. She won't bother you again. What did you do? I protected what's mine. No one hurts you. Not ever again. Imogen cried against his chest. Not from sadness, from relief, from love, from gratitude that this man loved her enough to fight for her. 3 weeks later, labor began. It was long and difficult. Rhys refused to leave her side. He held her hand, wiped her brow, encouraged her through every pain. When fear gripped him, he pushed it aside. Imogen needed him strong. After 14 hours, a baby's cry filled the room. A son, healthy and loud. The midwife placed him in Imogen's arms. She looked down at the tiny face and wept. Rhys touched the baby's head with a shaking hand. "He's perfect." "He's ours," Imogen whispered. The baby opened his eyes, grey eyes like his father's. Rhys made a sound between a laugh and a sob. He kissed Imogen's forehead, then his son's. "Thank you," he whispered. "Thank you for giving me this, for giving me everything." They named him Thomas, after Imogen's father. Thomas Thornwell, future Duke of Greystone. He was small and perfect, and loved beyond measure. The castle celebrated. Staff brought gifts. Letters of congratulation poured in. Lord Edmund sent a cold note. The lack of warmth confirmed that he knew his inheritance was lost. Greystone had an heir. But more importantly, Greystone had love. A family built not on duty but on genuine affection. On two broken souls who'd healed each other. Months passed. Baby Thomas grew fat and happy. Imogen regained her strength. Rhys was an attentive father. He held his son constantly, talked to him, showed him the estate, promised him everything. One evening, Imogen found Rhys in the nursery. He sat in the rocking chair holding sleeping Thomas. Tears streaked his face. "Rhys?" She knelt beside him. "What's wrong?" "Nothing's wrong. Everything's right. That's why I'm crying." "I don't understand. 3 years ago I thought my life was over. I thought I'd never feel anything again. I wanted to die. I was just going through motions." He looked at her. "Then you came. You with your quiet strength and kind heart. You saved me, Imogen. You brought me back to life. You saved me too, from cold and cruelty, from loneliness. We saved each other then." He smiled through tears. "Look at us now. Look at our son. Look at this life we've built. I never imagined I could be this happy, this grateful, this full." Imogen kissed him softly. "This is just the beginning. We have years ahead, years of love and laughter, years of watching Thomas grow, years of growing together. Promise me," he said. "Promise me you'll never leave. I know it's unfair to ask. I know I can't control it. But promise anyway." "I promise. I'll be by your side for as long as I live. I'll love you for as long as I breathe. That's all I need. Your love. Your presence. That's everything." They sat together in the nursery, their son sleeping peacefully, the fire crackling. Outside, snow fell softly, but inside was warm. Inside was safe. Inside was love. Years would pass. They would have more children. 2 daughters and another son. They would grow old together. Rhys's nightmares would fade. Imogen's scars, both visible and invisible, would become simply part of her story. Not the whole story. Just a part. They would be happy. Not perfectly, not without challenges, but genuinely, deeply happy. Because that cold winter night when he'd offered her warmth, when she'd chosen heat over ice, she'd chosen more than survival. She'd chosen life. She'd chosen hope. She'd chosen love. And he had chosen her. Not just once, but every day afterward. Chosen to feel. Chosen to risk. Chosen to love again despite the fear. 2 broken people. 1 healing love. 1,000 moments of tenderness. And in the end, a life neither had imagined possible. A life neither had dared hope for. But love does that. Love takes the broken pieces and makes something beautiful. Love takes the cold and creates warmth. Love takes the lonely and builds family. They had started as strangers bound by circumstance. They became partners, then lovers, then best friends, then the great love of each other's lives. And every night when Rhys held Imogen close, when he whispered that he loved her, when he kissed her goodnight, they both remembered. They remembered the cold, the loneliness, the pain, and they were grateful for it, because it had led them here, to each other, to this life, to this love. The Duke and Duchess of Greystone lived long, happy lives. They were known throughout the realm for their devotion to each other, for the warmth of their home, for the love they shared so openly it inspired others. And it all began with a simple choice. On a winter night, in a cold room, with an offer of warmth. Sleep in his bed or die of cold, he'd offered. She chose heat, and she never slept alone again, never was cold again, never was unloved again, because she'd found home, in a man who needed saving as much as she did, in a love that changed everything, in a choice that led to forever.